everyone. I'm so glad you're here for the second night of Unstoppable Live. Last night we covered motivation and getting stuff done, but tonight we're covering something that is really, really an important piece of growing your business and something that you know that I'm really passionate about, which is scaling your business with multiple income streams. And a big piece of what I help my clients with is visibility, right? Because if you don't have an audience, it's going to be really hard to grow your business, and it's going to be really hard to create security and sustainability and add in those extra income streams so that you are not always you're not always like working on the same thing over and over again. So we have some really awesome experts here tonight that I'm excited to introduce you to. First, I'm going to introduce Paige. Paige, say hey over there so they know which one you are. Paige is Paige is a comedian, director, producer, and video strategist who just loves working on all sides of the camera. She started producing short-form promotional videos in her fourth-floor walk-up apartment. And before she knew it, she'd accidentally created a video and marketing production company. As Paige evolved, so did Paige Media, and she now lives in Los Angeles. She ditched me in New York City, teaching entrepreneurs how to get over their camera fright and build massive online influence. She also loves doing and watching improv comedy, hosting murder mystery parties, and working on her tennis game. And then we have Dee. Say hey.
Hey, everybody.
Dee is an Instagram marketing expert and founder of Social Lead Group, an Instagram marketing and consulting company for female service-based entrepreneurs and coaches. She has helped hundreds of female entrepreneurs generate consistent leads from Instagram and increase their profits. Dee firmly believes in using Instagram as a marketing platform to convert followers to fans to customers and clients, rather than building huge Instagram followings that don't translate into paying clients. She lives in Short Hills, New Jersey with her husband, 2 boys, and a massive pile of books still waiting to be read. And then we have Haley. Hey, Haley.
Hi.
Haley is a certified content strategist and founder of Your Content Empire, where she partners with small business owners who are over the shoulds and ready to build their content empires their way. Through her programs, DIY content kits, and award-winning tell-all weekly blog, she's helped thousands of entrepreneurs create smarter content on a consistent basis that delights them and their customers while growing their bottom lines. And then we have Karen. Karen is the CEO of Up Level Media, and having been there and done that in the arena of losing and then refining a focused approach to business and life, Karen now offers coaching and consulting for entrepreneurs. Her unique specialty blends her get it done attitude with a passion for soulful living in her personal services and online workshops. And Karen is also from New Jersey, so somehow I didn't intend that, but we have a couple of East Coasters and West Coasters, which is good. So for you guys who are on and joining us tonight, feel free to drop in questions anytime about sort of where you're at with visibility, what's been your struggles in terms of reaching your audience, finding your audience, building your audience, or even let us know who's the audience that you're trying to reach. We'd love to hear about that. But I'm really excited about this because, you know, this is one area that I really like self-sabotaged in the beginning of my business. And I'd love to hear from you guys. When did you first realize visibility and growing your audience was going to be important? I think I didn't really realize that because I started out with a local business. So it was very obvious to me, like that what I needed to do to get people close and locally in the door. And then when I spread to more of an online business and more income streams, it was like, oh, I could reach so many people. But at the same time, I wasn't really reaching anyone. So Haley, let's start with you. I love that, you know, you have the content approach on things. So when did you first realize visibility was important to your business and really started focusing on it?
Yeah, so I think it's really only been in the last year or so. I think I fought it for a really long time and tried to hide behind my content for a really long time. And then this year, as more opportunities came up, it was like dragging me out from behind my laptop to more visible strategies. But I did fight it. I was like you, I had some resistance to it for sure.
Yes, definitely. And I really feel like too, every year I'm in business, like I realize how much more important it is. Like I sort of noticed it and was doing it a little bit, but not as much as I should have been. Karen, how about you? Because I feel like, we've been in this online world. You got there a little bit before me, but I know we talk about getting visible all the time.
Yeah, I think I did realize it pretty early on, because I was creating all this content. And Haley, I love that you talk about content. And I was like, okay, the same 10 people are seeing it. How do I get 20 people to see it? How do I get 50 people to see it? How do I get 100 people to see it? So pretty early on, I was like, all right, I need to grow these numbers. How do I do that? And how do I do that? Like I see somebody in the chat talking about without funds. Like when you're starting out, you don't have a lot of funds, right? So how do you do that without funds? So that's why for me, it really was social media and initially a lot on Twitter, because Twitter was easier to grow faster. But I think I think for me, it was less about the visibility so that I could get, I don't know, to be famous or a big deal, and more about, I want more people seeing this. I'm putting all this time and effort creating this content. I want more people to see it.
Yes, totally.
I'm putting all this.
Sorry, I was having trouble with the live broadcast. Dee, how about you? Because I know you focus mostly on Instagram, correct? So, yeah. And I love that you focus though on finding the right people, which I think is also important because I think in the beginning it goes two ways. It's either like, let's try to reach everyone, or, let's just like try to just reach a general audience too, where I think it gets really confusing.
Right. I think to answer your first question, I think I realized it pretty much in the beginning because my whole business idea was based on the fact that I wanted to help other entrepreneurs get more visible on social media. So I knew that I had to do it for me. But I started just with Instagram for creating visibility for my business. And then very soon I realized that why should I just limit myself to Instagram? I have to do like video. I have to go on podcasts, or I have to do guest blogging. So I definitely knew that visibility is a game changer. And like you're saying, yes, it's important to reach more people, but it's important to reach the right kind of people, because if you're not reaching the right kind of people, then your conversion rates are not going to be high. So then, as to Karen's point, what's the point then, right? So if you're reaching just about anybody, then that's not really good marketing. But good marketing would be when you're reaching the kind of people you want to reach, so that they come and they're interested in knowing more about your content.
Yes, definitely. Paige, how about you?
This is interesting. I've been thinking about it while you all have been talking because I've been able to see this like evolution of the need for visibility throughout my career. So I started as, I had a video production company, and I was doing like one promotional video for a client, and then I was doing another promotional video for a client. And then as my business got bigger and as I was growing, there was more of a demand for a lot of videos rather than just like one brand video. It was, can we get 10 videos for our Instagram account? Or can we get a series of video content for our YouTube channel? So it's really like, I've sort of been on the outside watching it all evolve. And along with that, like I've also been creating my own content to sort of echo this trend of needing to put more stuff out there because just the noise seems to be growing and growing. So the key is, how do I stand out? Like, how do I make myself look different when everybody is scrolling and everybody's looking at the same stuff over and over again? How am I gonna be unique and get in front of people multiple times in order for them to remember me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it totally has been a shift, as you say, because I think it's true. Like, in the beginning, like and when I say beginning, I'm talking about like my beginning, which was like 5 or 6 years ago. It really was like, if you had one promotional video on your site, like you were ahead of the game. Like, a lot of people didn't have that. Or if you did have like a few videos on YouTube, it was like a big deal. And of course, in hindsight, it's like, oh, I should have stuck with it a little bit longer. So in terms of staying consistent, I think that is a big piece of it, right? Like to get the visibility and to keep growing, it's about staying consistent. So I'd love to hear from you guys, because, you know, what I love about this is we all have our own different ways to stay consistent with visibility or to stay consistent with anything in business, but particularly visibility. So what do you help your clients with, or what do you do in your own business to stay consistent with staying visible? Karen, how about you? Oh, and you're muted.
Am I still muted?
No,
you're muting me. I'm muting you. Okay. Okay. So for me, it comes back to content, right? Mm-hmm. You can be visible, but what are you talking about? You know, so you can be visible, and you should be visible, sharing and supporting other people. But if you're you're positioning yourself as a thought leader or an expert at what you're doing, you've got to be creating content. Mm-hmm. So for me, that kind of comes back to, if I'm creating this content, what am I doing with it? And then I need to be visible with it. And I don't think it's about creating like tons and tons of content, but I think it's about being consistent with one piece of content. I would say every week. Right. So one piece of content every week, and then repurposing that piece of content.
Right.
Right. Like talking, maybe, you know, like when I was doing blogs, I would do a blogcast where I would go live on Facebook and talk about my blog. And I have a podcast. So I go live on Facebook and I do a podcast recap. And then I upload that to LinkedIn and I share little snippets of that to Twitter. So it's not about creating a lot of content. But again, it comes back down to, if I'm going to create this content, I don't want it to just go into the ethers and, you know, have nothing happen to it. So that doesn't really answer your question about having to be consistent, though. But I will say that for me, it's about getting a jump on it. It's about batching and getting a jump on it. Because, and I don't do this well, you know, this is something I'm trying to get better at. But it's about batching it and getting a jump on it. And then at this point now, I've got people that support me that they need me to be ahead of it, right? So I guess I would say, you know, decide what your one thing is going to be, and then do your best to get ahead of it. But I don't care if you do it once a month. If you say you're going to do it once a month, you have to do it once a month. If you say you're going to do it once a week, you have to do it once a week.
Right.
So, and we're not perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but you've got to have that, at least have that commitment to yourself and business. And when I decided, probably 2014 maybe, that I was going to blog every week, that is the year that my business blew up. When I decided, no fail, my content was going out every single week, no matter what, my business exploded that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely showing up consistently and having that one thing. Dee, I'd love to hear how you think about it in terms of Instagram, because Instagram, it's like so easy. Like I found this myself, to go on and have fun with it like a ton, and then to kind of like burn out with it. And not show up for like a few weeks or a month without really even realizing it. And it's also confusing too with the two formats, story and post, which I feel are really different.
I'm sorry, say that again. What was the
two formats of like Instagram stories and then just like Instagram posts, you know, because they do have really different purposes on there.
Right, absolutely. First of all, I'm going to say that, and this is what I tell all my clients, that inconsistency is a visibility and a sales blocker. It absolutely is. So if you're not consistent, you're not going to be visible. So if you're going to only show up like once a month, or let's say once in 2 months, you're going to show up once and then disappear, then people are not going to know who you are, and they're not going to book you for your services, or they're not going to buy your programs. So that is one thing. So like Karen said, decide what your one platform or what your one stream of content is going to be, and then beat the shit out of it. So let's say if it's Instagram, and every platform has its own nuances, every platform works differently. So let's say if I talk about email newsletter, it is okay to send an email once a week. It's okay to send an email once, like maybe twice in a week. It depends on you, right? But it's probably not going to work if you're only sending an email once a month to your list. It's not going to give you as good results. And Instagram is also, similar in a case. So you cannot post once a month and then expect people to follow you and buy from you. So consistency is definitely important. However, you define what your consistency is going to be. So the way Instagram platform works right now, and this might change. So next year, if you do a summit and you call me, my answer might be different. But right now, the way Instagram platform works is that your content lasts a little longer. So you can totally post 3 or 4 times a week and you are good with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about the posts that you're going to be sharing on Instagram. However, Instagram stories is a different beast altogether. Research is showing that people are watching more and more Instagram stories. They are definitely consuming more content there. And that's why I think, and I recommend you doing Instagram stories every day.
Yeah.
If not every day, at least every day. I think it's every day.
Just every day. Just be honest.
Yeah. But even if you can make like 2 stories a day, which is actually not a big deal, to be honest.
Right.
If you can make 2, if you can stay committed to it, so the first thing is stay committed and plan for it. So that is the number one thing in any kind of content, whether it's podcast or blogging, you will have to plan for it. And if you can batch it, then that's awesome. But if you can't, then at least plan for it. Plan what you're going to say on your Instagram stories and what post you're going to share on your Instagram. And yeah, like you said, Nicole, it's okay to take a break. That's fine.
And I do think it's so important though to be like, what is working right now?
Yeah.
Because a couple years on Instagram, you really did have to be posting before Instagram stories. You were really posting like every day.
Oh yeah, 2 or 3 times a day even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it does really change over time. Haley, what about you? Because your area of expertise that I see is really content creation. So how, and I think you're just so amazing at having good systems and processes to really making it easier to get tons of content done. So how do you help the people who are coming to you that haven't been doing it and now they're like ready to show up?
Yeah, I feel like there's so much I can say about this because consistency is one of those messages that I am constant. I feel like I'm, a broken record on it. So I think it really boils down to 2 things. I think number one, too many people operate from a place of should, and they think that only one form of visibility is the only way to do something. Video might not be for you. Writing may not be for you. Podcast may be your sweet spot, right? So whatever that is, I think it's most important that we don't neglect our own joy in the process, because if we're trying to force ourselves to do something we hate, we're sure as heck not going to be consistent with it, or we're going to be fighting with ourselves the whole time. So I think like giving yourself a chance to experiment and find what that sweet spot for you is, so you're not fighting yourself to stay consistent. That is something that comes up with my clients again and again and again, where we have to like strip back these shoulds and strip back this pressure
and
that
I
they
think
feel.
what's interesting too is sometimes there's like a disconnect. Like I actually prefer to read content, but it is so much easier for me to create video content and talk. But like for me, I'm a visual person, so I like absorb the knowledge better when I watch it. So when I read it. So I think in the beginning I had a hard time because I felt like I had to create the content that I like to consume, and I would like get so stuck and not create anything, even though, other ways work better for me. So I do love the idea of just experimenting with it. And also I think, trying something again after a while too can be good, because sometimes we get like tired of like doing the same thing over and over. So it could be okay, like later on, to come back to like writing things or figuring out a different way, right? Do you feel it's okay to switch back and forth between types of content?
I think that you should stick with something for long enough to start getting some momentum. I think with anything you do, you need to like, I just think like there's no replacement for this. There's no secret to it. You have to commit. You have to commit, right? There's a tipping point with content and with visibility. And we all like it when we see results, but unfortunately, until you build up that momentum and start to see results, it's kind of like the self-fulfilling thing, right? The more we see results, the more we enjoy it, but we're not going to see results unless we commit to it, even if we don't see results at first. So I think there should be a commitment to a type of content, but definitely have that experimentation and revisiting something. Yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think it's good to add on other layers later on, like get started with one and then maybe you can add on the video layer or something like that, or the Instagram or whatever, rather than trying them all at one time too. All right, Paige, tell us about how to be more consistent with video content.
I love all these answers. Like everybody has different answers, but I'm just like, yes, queens, to all of this. So for me, the key is accountability. Like I need somebody who's like, Paige, did you shoot your YouTube videos this week like you promised? So that's a really big part for me, and a lot of people that I work with. Like, that's kind of why we work together, so that I can like kick their butt and keep them accountable. So, and especially when it comes to making videos, there's so many pieces that go into it that, like, you might be excited about one part, like you might be excited about sitting in front of a camera and recording all your videos,
Right.
but when it comes to like editing, you're just so resistant and you don't even want to touch it, and you're just willing to pay whatever you can to get somebody else to edit it, which is like a point I got to. But when you're first starting out, you can't afford to hire everybody out. You know, you really have to pick and choose. So if I have the time and somebody's like, all right, this is the time you've blocked out, let's edit your videos, you know, we'll do like peer editing, co-working kind of times, then that's the best way for me to stay consistent. Putting it on my calendar, just like actually putting action steps into place is really, really helpful for me. And then I think there was like also a conversation about platforms and choosing something and like really sticking with it. And I think especially like when you're an independent business owner and you're starting out, and in this year where there's so many different types of social media, I think it's so important to like pick one platform that you really want to focus on and learn about. And like Karen said, you can take that content and repurpose it in other ways. Like maybe Twitter would be a secondary platform for you, but you really want to focus on your YouTube videos. I think that's really the key in like making sure that you really stick with something and start to see results. Like Haley was saying, like results are what is going to keep you there and keep you going and doing the thing.
Yes. And I really do think too, like you said, really sticking with it, getting those results. And I think what happens then to people, I don't know if you've seen this, is they sort of back off because then they're busier with like clients or whatever. And then it's like harder to go back to it the second time around. So I think even when it really is important to set aside that time in your schedule every week for it, no matter, and really protect that time, because that is what continues to bring in clients or sales or, you know, whatever it is, like more audience members. Otherwise your growth will plateau or go down a little bit.
It's like going to the gym, you know, it's like, I'm going to go to the gym every week and I'm going to work out every week. And then you like miss a week and you're like, no, I'm done. I forgot what the gym is. Where is this place? You know, like,
right.
That's what it's like.
Oh my gosh. So what are the ways that you've seen people block themselves from visibility? So how have their like self-sabotages, or how have your self-sabotages gotten in the way? Because I think that this is a really huge thing that, you know, it sounds easy to say like, let's do all this stuff, be consistent, but how have your self-sabotages gotten in the way? And I've had so many, I'll have to think of one because I'll share it too. But how have your self-sabotages gotten in the way of you even staying consistent with visibility? Dee, how about you?
Very interesting that you asked this question because so I was just talking about this to someone today. Lots of ways where people can self-sabotage themselves, and I have too in the past. But I think the number one is the fear of putting themselves out there. Mm-hmm. I think people are so scared of what are people going to say when they see my video? What if nobody likes it? What if no one comments? Bunch of other stuff. What if no one listens to my podcast? Whatever it is. So the fear of being judged is the number one way I feel like people self-sabotage themselves. And what I want to say to people is that, first of all, know that all of us fear that. Like, don't you all, like whenever, like maybe now or the first time when you created your first piece of content, don't we all feel that fear of nobody liking? I remember when I did my first Facebook Live, I was so scared that nobody's going to show up live. So normalize it. Everybody feels it. And then get over it even when you're feeling the fear. So just do it. And then again, coming back to consistency, the only way to get over that fear is to be able to do it consistently. So doing it again and again, practicing it, doing it again and again. The second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fear is going to become less and less. And yeah, maybe you'll suck the first time, maybe you'll suck a little less the second time, but your 10th video or your 10th time you post something there, you're gonna get the knack of it and get better at it.
Yes, you do have to get over that hump. Last year, I actually did like a video critique of my first YouTube video, and it was kind of, truthfully, the look of my videos has not changed that much. It's like still me sitting in a chair in a gray shirt.
You got better lighting though.
And that was just like a couple months ago.
Game changer.
Game changer. But you know, it hasn't really changed that much. And I do think we need to like complicate it.
Yeah.
Karen, what about you? How have you self-sabotaged your visibility?
My object syndrome. I like think I need to do too many things, and I totally need to stay focused. And I actually have a business friend who has a business that's crazy successful, like a couple $100,000 a month successful. She sells one $10 a month product, and that's all she sells, and she sells it to a specific market, and she's killing it. I literally have her picture in front of me right now. When I get like distracted, and her name is Jennifer. I want to buy like a "What would Jesus do" bracelet, like and do like "What would Jennifer do?" You know, like, because I find myself getting distracted, and then important things don't get done, right? Because I do all these other things. So for me, that is the biggest challenge. But for my customers, I feel like I was thinking about this when Dee was talking. What I think is interesting is often they think that what they do really well, they don't need to talk about because everybody knows how to do that, but they don't realize that everybody doesn't know how to do that. So instead of talking about the things that come natural to them and that they could talk about in their sleep and, you know, as they're walking down the street, they do all this research and they're talking about all these things that they overthink it. And I'm like, stop, like talk about what you do and what you love. And they're like, well, who cares about that? I'm like, everybody. Nobody does this as well as you do, you know? So really, I think that they overthink it and they do too much prep. And I do a lot of prep. So I'm not saying don't prep, but at some point you got to push record,
Right.
you know? And so just talk about the things that come naturally to you and that are easy to talk about. And then as you progress, you can do research and you know, spread out a little bit more. But I think that they do too much research and they overthink it too much.
Right. Research mode is a huge, huge, huge self-sabotage for sure, because it's like, it just makes it makes it so complicated that you can't get started. And then two, it is like a good distractor as well. Haley, how about you?
Oh, I had to unmute myself. I agree with everyone. I'm like, those are good ones. They keep stealing mine. I think a big one for my client is something I call the what the hell effect. And so it's something where if they plan to do all of the things, they have this 12-point visibility plan and they can't do all of it, they don't do any of it. It's kind of like when we eat poorly, we have a bad breakfast and we're like, what the hell? We can just do whatever we want the rest of the day. So I think it's that for themselves. What I see them sabotaging themselves again and again is that if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was actually thinking perfection for sure as one of the ones that I was going to mention, because I do think, you know, I hear that from people all the time. They're like, well, I need to edit my videos. And I'm like, I have never edited a video. If like I make a mistake in the first 7 seconds, I'll start over. But otherwise, like, it's not happening. That is just like a skill set I don't want to learn. And I made it this far. If I really needed to, I could obviously hire someone out. But I think for like daily content or videos, like it's just not that important, you know, for the most part. You know, and I think that is something that is very easy to like get people stuck, like feeling like they need the perfect setting and the perfect everything. And they focusing on the wrong things for sure. Paige, what about you? How do you self-sabotage?
I mean, that's like my answer. It's like, you have to be perfect. Because a lot of times, like I won't shoot my videos because I didn't do my makeup or like my hair isn't straight. Like I like to have my hair straight in my videos. So if it's not straight that day, I won't shoot my videos. Like it's that stupid stuff. That really keeps me from like sharing my value with the world and promoting myself and getting potential customers, clients. So yeah, it's a lot of that. And it's a lot of that that comes up for my clients too. So it's like, what would I tell my client in that situation, you know? And what's really valuable for me and what helps me is to think about like all the people who love you and work with you. They've seen you from all different angles, in all different circumstances. They've seen you without makeup, probably. They've seen you like when you're maybe like haven't gotten the most sleep the night before, or like you've got several chins going on at some angle. So it's like they've seen you from all angles and they still love you and still want to work with you. So what's to say that putting out a video that you think is like not perfect is going to keep somebody from wanting to work with you? So I think that's just like a reframe that I like, that I give to myself, and I help with my clients with, and everything like that. So perfection, I think, is a big one.
Yes, I see people get caught up about this. By the way, I basically wear like the same shirt in every video because it's just like too complicated to think about outfit changes. So, and I like to batch things. So it's just easier for me. Like I know people line up outfits to change, but I've actually had people comment how like they always recognize my videos because I'm just wearing the same thing, or I'm always in like the same colors or whatever. So I think that kind of like, it does make, like it makes me stand out a little bit to them in a weird way, by just trying to blend in more. So I think too, like just kind of anything you can simplify, right? Like, so that would actually be a great next question to dive into. What's something in your area of expertise in particular where you see that people really overcomplicate it, that they could really simplify it? So Dee, let's start with you. Where could they
Oh my God.
on Instagram?
Instagram is like the perfection, I don't know, the perfection syndrome, right? I think people overcomplicate Instagram with the kind of pictures that they need to share on it. Like, I have had clients who will not share their post till they have had professional photography done. And I'm like,
Right.
just do it. It doesn't matter. And I feel like I agree that Instagram is to an extent a visual platform. So you probably cannot put a picture like which is in bad lighting, it's blurry. But like there's nothing wrong in putting up a picture which is shot with your iPhone. There's absolutely nothing wrong. I do think that people overcomplicate the visual aspect of Instagram a lot, and they forget that more than a visual platform, Instagram is actually a storytelling platform. And I have actually tested it out with my content and with my clients' content, that no matter if I put a picture that has been taken by my professional photographer on my team, or it's been taken by my own self and I'm a terrible photographer, if I am talking about something which is really amazing, really helpful, really aligned with what my audience needs and wants, speaks to their soul,
Right.
it is going to get a lot of conversions. It is going to get a lot of attention, irrespective of the kind of picture that I've shared.
Right.
So I think that's something that people on Instagram definitely overcomplicate.
Yes,
you need to be perfect.
Right. And I think too, if you could just choose like a good filter, it'll definitely make it easier to like just using a consistent filter.
Right.
Like I used to choose one that had like a bluish tinge, and it just kind of like made it look more like my photos. Right. I was using it all the time. And like people could kind of associate it with my brand. So I think that helps as well.
And also like how people kind of curate their feeds with like colors and overlays and all, and it just drives me freaking nuts because they can't keep up with it after a certain time because they cannot find the same colored pictures from all the places, so they get bored with it. The audience gets bored with it. I'm like, why even start then? Just forget it. Just keep it neutral. Keep it something which is true to yourself. This is Instagram, and your content is not about you. It's more about your audience than it is about you.
And I do think this comes back to the consistency piece, which is the more complicated you make it, the harder it is to stay consistent.
Absolutely.
And that's what's really going to hurt you more than anything else than having it perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Paige, coming to you. How about you? How are people complicating video, which I feel is like a very easy one to complicate?
Hugely easy to complicate.
Especially if they see your videos with like the fancy effects.
Oh my God. I just put out a YouTube video for how to add GIFs from Instagram to your like videos on YouTube. And it's like a game changer for me when I learned how to do that. I was like, this is so fun. Like, it just makes editing more fun and it makes my videos more fun. Anyway, okay, so you were talking about like you don't edit your videos. I actually have a friend who has a hugely successful YouTube channel and she does all her videos in one take. She's like given up on the editing thing. She's like, I record my videos and if I mess up halfway through, I start over, and she's totally fine with it because she knows she's not going to have to edit it after that. And I think the editing piece can really complicate things for people. Like, it feels very heavy. It feels like complicated. It feels like it's a lot to learn. It could also be
expensive too if you are outsourcing it and you don't need to be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even like, editing software is not totally cheap.
Right.
So there's a lot of barriers to entry when you're editing videos. So I would say if you could do them all in one take, awesome. Like, that makes it super easy. And then just like the whole piece about gear, like having to have the right lighting situation and audio and video lenses and cameras, all the stuff. Our phones are just getting better and better at creating high quality videos and images. So why not use your phone? Like, you have it on you all the time. Like, use it as a tool for marketing. And I'm a huge fan and advocate of using your phone and just creating content there. And then either you send it to an editor that cuts it, or you just like post it as is. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like, amen, D. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just freaking post it.
It's so true. And honestly, let's be real. People are multitasking nowadays anyways when they're watching your content. So they're probably not going to notice you stumble over a word or your imperfect lighting or whatever.
Totally.
Because you're doing 50 other things at one time anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And have you seen, there's all these like, a lot of influencers now are using these like walk and talk videos where they're like kind of holding their phone and walking and talking. And they use those for Facebook ads because they're really powerful at getting people's attention. And it looks like it wasn't this highly produced thing. It was just kind of like you with your phone walking down the street. And people want to see that. It gives this more like authentic feeling to the content that you're putting out, rather than I have all of this money and I'm hiring all these people to do all these things in my makeup and my editing and like make it perfect. Because I mean, like, we're not Kylie Jenner, like, we're not perfect, it's like we are flawed human beings, and showing that really, I think, attracts more people to our brands.
Yes, definitely. Haley, what about you? How are people overcomplicating content?
Oh boy, you have all night.
I know, we could do a whole hour just on that.
Oh man, if I had to boil it down to the biggest thing, it would be thinking that they need to be really fussing over the frequency of blog posts. The frequency and when I say blog posts, that could be video, it can be podcasts, it can be written. That doesn't really matter.
Content.
Exactly. Yeah. So really fussing over this frequency and thinking that they need more and more instead of doing more with what they already have. I think that we need to focus on quality over quantity. And I think that there's a lot of guilt associated with like, I'm going to blog weekly and I'm going to miss a week and I'm going to feel absolutely terrible about myself because of it. And I think the guilt is where a lot of that complication comes from. That could be really simplified by doing more with what you have. Yeah, whether that means promoting it more, creating less, and just doing more, right?
And how can people like make the content creation piece like a little bit less complicated?
Oh my gosh. My watch is calling emergency services. Oh my God, I hope they don't call back. I was like, what are you doing? Talk about imperfection.
Police actually happened after I set off the alarm online.
Oh my gosh. If they call, I'll just throw it out and my husband can answer it.
They'll like come to the house and check on you.
Oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. I think batching, yeah, it's something that you have talked about too. I think that batching, like if we can just get, if we can streamline it, if we can systemize it, I think that we don't need to be recreating everything from scratch. And so I think batching, creating more in
one
less
of the
time.
biggest drains on my time, and that's the biggest drain that I see for my clients when they usually start with me too, is they're like, what should I create today, or how do I show up today, rather than kind of just setting aside, and honestly, even in Instagram, you could create 5 to 10 posts in an hour and be good for 2 weeks, or LinkedIn posts. But I really see people complicating it so much. And really like every day spending so much time giving themselves decision fatigue over trying to decide what to create. And I always get like that too at first, where it's like, I don't know what to think of when I'm planning it. But the more you do it and you build up that muscle, the easier it is, for sure.
100%. And not giving things like their own buckets. Like I'm big on doing a batch week for my content so that I can do like more important things the rest of the month. Yeah.
Yes. Even like, I agree, even just getting it done during 1 week and not even every week is like a nice change for people, for sure. Karen, how about you? How are people overcomplicating LinkedIn?
I mean, they overcomplicate it by nature. It's like they kind of skip over it, because they think that they have to be somebody that they're not, or they don't understand what to do. And really, of all of the platforms, I really believe that LinkedIn is where business happens. So, if you walk into a networking event, like you're at a Chamber of Commerce or whatever, you get dressed, you go, you take all this time to go there, and there's 100 people in the room, and there's 2 people in that room that could be valuable to you, but you're there. So you took 5 hours out of your day to meet those 2 people that you hope you find. Right. Well, you could use LinkedIn to meet those 2 people, skip the other 98, and just start, search for the people that you think could be valuable to you, and just start conversations. It isn't scary or overwhelming or corporate or a job search. It's for meeting people, and having conversations with people, and getting to know them and have them getting to know you. And by the way, being open when, by virtue of the word networking, you're not just there to sell, you're there to support, right? So if I just meet you, Nicole, for the first time, and at an in-person event, I don't just sit there and talk about me and say, you should buy my stuff. I'm like, tell me about you, right? And so we talk to each other, and we in your head, you're thinking, well, how, maybe I should introduce you to this person or that person. That's all you need to do on LinkedIn. Right. That's all you need to do is walk, meet people there the same way you would meet people in person, with a genuine mind to support them, as well as hope that they can support you. And all of the other things, don't worry about all of the other things. Like, don't worry about all the other things. Yeah, there's a lot of people pitching on LinkedIn. Don't worry about them. Yeah, there's a whole lot of people that say my market's there, but don't worry about them. Worry about the people that are there. Worry about the people that are open to having a conversation with you. And just have some conversations with people, and stop overthinking all of the other things that you think of when you get to LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is definitely an easy way to just make an easy connection with someone. And I think that since you are talking about engagement, I think that's a good question for us to move into, and we can kind of just continue with you a little bit more on that. Like, for all of us, like, let's go into how to get engagement on the content that you're creating on your platform, because the truth is, if you're just putting out content and no one's engaging ever, and engagement to, like, I'm going to be honest, I just read this, my audience actually is very quiet. They don't always comment on stuff. They tend to be further ahead in their business. So they're not always commenting on stuff. They're not always like in Facebook groups or asking questions on it, right? So they may email me more or start private conversations with me. So engagement doesn't always mean like engagement, number of likes, comments, etc. But like sort of like, are people coming back to you and saying that they appreciate your content? And are you knowing that people are reading and engaging with it? So Karen, are there any other tips to make sure, how should people really look to get engagement? Is it that one-to-one connection for LinkedIn in particular?
It is, but also, something that's kind of been percolating in me as we've been going through this and all talking about these things is that, we're talking about overthinking and perfectionism and editing videos and things like that, yet all of the platforms are diving deeper and deeper into live video.
Mhm.
The reality is authenticity is more important today than it's ever been. I mean, all the platforms are shutting down, like Twitter just shut down a whole bunch of tools last week or last month that were auto following and auto unfollowing and things like that. Like, the platforms want you to be you. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but one of the reasons is because that's what works, right? So engagement, so I'll give you an example. If I have my podcast, right? And I put a link, and it's on a blog, and I have show notes, all this good SEO stuff and images and all this other stuff. If I take that link and I drop it on LinkedIn, I'll get a couple of people that engage on it. But if I go on Facebook and do a Facebook Live recap of my podcast, where I spend 5 minutes talking about my podcast, and then at the end link to, I'm like, you're gonna love what Nicole says about this, and somewhere in the middle we talk about this is a really fun thing. If I do that and then upload that 5-minute video to LinkedIn, and by the way, LinkedIn's coming out with Live, if you guys haven't heard that, that's happening. But right now you still have to upload video, right? So you upload native video, that video is gonna get a ton more engagement where I'm talking about my podcast than the link, right? So again, I'm not talking about a fancy video. I'm talking about me showing up and just saying, you guys are gonna love this week's podcast. Here's what we talked about, here's what we did, here's what I pay most attention to. And then I put a link to it, and that gets me more downloads of my podcast even than just dropping in the link to the podcast. So that's changed. That's a change that I've seen happen in the last few years. It used to be that Twitter was the #1 source of traffic to my website because I used to just throw out all my blogs and I would tweet it all the time. And it's still a huge source of traffic to my website, but I'm getting nowhere near as much traffic because people are not as interested in you just spamming them with content. They want more of you. So if you want engagement, you have to be engaging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. And it's so true. I think that, that's funny that you said authenticity, because Paige said that earlier and I was like, oh, that's really going to be a good point to bring up later. But I do think for sure, people do just want to see people like in the moment with emotion, telling stories, not that like rehearsed content anymore. That's like the 3-step process. It's sort of like my audience like reacts to me best when I'm like talking about why I hated my couch color and like how that, it was like
exactly
a story about how to talk about business disappointment, and I think like
you're getting to know you and you're getting to know your personality, and that helps them make buying decisions.
Yeah.
And even if that decision's a no, that's okay. Better they know that now than you find that out the hard way later on, right? So
Right. I think that you can really get a feel for someone and what it's going to be like to work with them when you are creating that authentic opportunity for people to connect with you every day versus the rehearsed opportunities.
Right.
Haley, what are your best tips for getting more engagement with your content?
Oh, I just have to say how much I loved Karen's there. It reminds me of like a tip that I heard. Like, I'm a huge introvert. Let's speak about other things that come up for me about like roadblocks to visibility is like, I'm an introvert. I don't want to be seen. But Karen, that reminded me of like, they say when you like go to a networking event, don't focus on being like interesting, focus on being interested. And I love that reframe so much. I think for me, I'm sorry, I got so excited about that. I forgot the question.
All good. Creating it because it was engaging content. That's why it worked, right? Engaging content. What have you seen working to create engaging content?
Yeah, I think what I've always used for that is I think it's the easiest formula in the world. Like when you come up with topics to write content about or create content around, just focus on having more conversations with your people and ask them what they actually want content around. I think that we want to overcomplicate it, but I think if we're willing to listen, if we're willing to have those conversations and just get to know our people as well as we can, so we can come from a place of service, they will tell us exactly what they want to consume.
Right. For sure. And I think that honestly, it really is, so good to take note of that, because I'm the type of person who's like, I'm going to remember that. And then like 2 days later, I'm like, what do I write about? What do I talk about? So like definitely take note as you have that come up, because it's so easy to forget it quickly, even though you think you will. And if you are batching, you can go back to the notes and it still will have that like natural flow, but definitely like really take note when somebody says something that really like sticks out to you, or you're like, this is a good story point. And I've noticed too, the more consistently you create content, the more that you will see those opportunities to turn things into engaging content and stories. And it isn't so like researched. Like as a, you know, former psychology major and therapist, like my writing, like if I'm really like working to write, it still comes off very like clinical and dry and everything. So it's good to like kind of come up with those like everyday things and take advantage of them when you see them and you hear them, for sure. Dee, how about you? What's working on engaging on Instagram? And I feel like it's probably Instagram stories, to be honest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That is definitely. First of all, I would like to say I totally agree with Paige, Haley, and Karen when they talked about being vulnerable, being authentic, because people buy from people, so they have to see you as someone who is just like them. And I think, Nicole, think of I think of content as like the three spokes on a wheel that gets engaging content or gets, you know, more interest from your audience. And the first spoke is I talk about is the consistency, right? You have to do it again and again. And the second one is transparency or authenticity. So you have to show yourself as a real person. So you cannot be like that perfect Kylie Jenner, what Paige was talking about. And the third one is, of course, a little bit of social proof. So you know how well your content has been working, how you've helped others. And when these three things, the three spokes on a wheel, when they keep moving, that's when your wheel of content goes faster and faster. And people start to see it more as an authentic content coming from a place of service rather than just asking for the sale. And that's when you start getting engaging content. So it's very, very important to be consistent, but it's also very important to include the transparency aspect of including your own stories, like you said, the pieces of your own life. I am not surprised that when you talked about the couch color, you got more engagement rather than, you know, talking about a business program or something else. And it's the same with me, and I'm sure it's the same with everyone else. So include your own personality and include your own stories into your content. And when people see you as someone like, oh my gosh, she is just like me, they're definitely going to engage in it.
And I think too, like it doesn't come naturally to some of us, and that is okay. The more it really is like building up a muscle, like the more you do it, the more you will see the connections and be able to make the stories. Cause I really couldn't do it at all at first. It felt like so foreign to me.
Yeah.
You know, I really do think like the more you do it, like that consistency piece, the easier it is going to be. And you're also then going to like get that feedback from people. So it'll be easier to see like what they're asking and stuff like that.
And I think in terms of storytelling or, you know, being transparent, you don't have to like fathom or cook up stories. Just take things from your own life. Just a few weeks ago, I created like a Facebook post, or was it an Instagram post? I forgot, where I compared my 3-year-old's underwear, which had a lot of holes in it, with Instagram. And that got so much engagement. It got so much engagement, and I got so many messages, and not only about Instagram and not only about their interest in what I was doing, but also about, oh my God, I have a 3-year-old. I totally relate to it. So it just became a conversation. So think about what you can include from your life, from your daily life, what you're doing, what you like to do, from the experiences that you're having into your content.
Yes. Sometimes too, I just, as a prompt, I'm like, what happened over the past 48 hours? Like, what did I do over the past like 24 to 48 hours? Which sometimes it's not a lot, but you know, there's always something in there for sure.
Right.
So I definitely think the other piece too, you know, is make sure you guys are, for those of you who are on, make sure that you're inviting people to engage with you. Make sure you're telling them you're giving them a question to answer to get more engagement. Or you're saying like, you know, send me a message. Like I've noticed on, you know, Instagram stories, for example, if I'm like doing a story and I'm like, hey, tell me what you want to know, or send me a message, or which do you like better? People respond more, and it increases that connection for sure. But, you know, I think that's easy to forget too, but we have to kind of give people the opportunity, like by asking them a question or giving them that call to action, because it's easy to forget that piece of things.
Absolutely.
Paige, how about you? How to get more engagement on video?
Well, that's what I was going to say is ask questions, ask them to engage, ask them to comment. Like, what do you want from this video? And I love that you mentioned Instagram stories, because it's like built-in interactivity. Like, you can put a question on there and actually have people answer it. You know, I think that's super fun. And YouTube has this thing called polls now that you can put into your YouTube videos. So you can actually insert a card that's like the form of a poll that has a question. So if it's like something along the lines of what you do, you can say, how have you experienced this in your life? And give them like a couple different options. They get to interact with it. So you're getting people like engaging with the content, in the content. And then you want to ask questions throughout. So it's not just like putting it at the end, because there's no guarantee that they're going to be watching it all the way to the end. Have them comment earlier. Have them do like your unique hashtag, right? I think that's a really cool way, because a lot of people that are watching, they're lurkers. They're not necessarily like the kind that is going to engage. So how do you get those people in on this conversation? Well, make something really easy for them to do. Like, hey, comment below, hashtag I'm awesome, or whatever, right? So just like tell them literally what to comment, and they're more likely to do it, because they're not having to be vulnerable, or not having to like open up about anything. And then once they've done that and they know it feels good to engage, and they know that they're not going to die from doing it, they're more likely to comment again and to engage again. So those are just some of the tips that I have for YouTube especially. But yeah, asking questions, asking open-ended questions that people can comment on, and then in the comment when you respond, ask another question. Like, keep the conversation going so that it's flowing, and you've got like
Yes,
a conversation going around your content.
That's actually super important too on Facebook, in the comments of your videos, to respond to each comment, you know, and ask a question back, and not just like end the conversation or like let it go, because Facebook loves when you're feeding the conversation and it's ongoing, and then it keeps showing your video or your content.
Yeah. And in a live video, it's easier, because you do have people watching and engaging in real time. But you have to remember, when you're recording videos and you're talking to this machine in front of you, that there's actually going to be a human being watching. So you have to like build in a two-way conversation into your content, into your script, so that you know people are watching, and you can help them engage throughout the process.
I mean, and the truth is, people are watching during lives, but most people are still watching the replay.
Yeah.
So it is okay too to say, hey, if you're watching the replay, say this, or if you're watching the replay, drop a comment, I'll be checking later. You know, so I think too, like, acknowledge the people who aren't there live, because truthfully, there are going to be a lot more people watching the replay. And the other thing that I want to add too is, really, to get that engagement going, is make sure that you're engaging on people's content as well. Because I know I'm an introvert too, and even on like people's content or watching their videos, I have a tendency to like not comment. I'm like a lurker. And I think it's really important. So for like good engagement karma, if you want people engaging on your stuff, make sure you're out there, you're supporting other people's stuff. They're going to see your stuff. They're going to see your name. They're going to recognize you. You're going to check out what you're doing too. So don't forget either to just engage on other people's content as a way to increase your like own engagement.
Yeah, and well, Karen can probably speak to this, but I really like on LinkedIn how they like, it shows when someone you connect with comments on someone else's video or photo. So it's like through third parties, you see other people's just content come up on your news feed, because someone you're directly connected with commented on their video.
Right. So yeah, it definitely spreads it a little bit more. Are there any goals that you guys have for your own visibility this year? I like definitely believe in setting goals for things like visibility. I know it's easy like to get caught up in numbers or whatever. But I mean, I think even setting engagement goals and stuff like that is important, just because it helps me then stay consistent with taking action. So I'd love to hear what your goals are for visibility, whether it's, you know, any type of platform or your email list or whatever, but, you know, where are you looking to really connect with people this year for yourselves? Dee, how about you? Obviously Instagram, but as you said, you're trying out other platforms too.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Instagram is definitely something that is ongoing with me, but one of the things that I've been wanting to do is Pinterest for my business. And definitely my email list is top priority. So I would say email list first and then Pinterest. These are the two things that I want to tackle. I like to create like short-term goals, so maybe like 6 monthly goals, and then in the next 6 months I'll probably tackle maybe video. I don't know. I mean, I don't do a lot of Facebook lives, but I do record videos for my course. But I would definitely love to do like a video channel or something like that. So
come over to the dark side. We'll take you.
I love videos. I love creating videos. It's the editing that I don't like.
Totally. So how do you set your goals? How do you choose what you're aiming for?
Right. So I have to be honest. So Pinterest has been on my goal from the last year, and I haven't been able to do that. But I've just seen the results with a few of my clients who've, they took over one platform and then moved to Pinterest, and they've got such great results. And I would definitely like to try it. So what I am doing now is, after trying it for myself for so many months and not doing anything, I am actually bringing in a Pinterest expert on board with me, and she's going to do everything for me. So so I'm just going to do the content and do that. And my email list is something that I, it's an ongoing, agenda to grow it. So lots of lead magnets, lots of speaking engagements, and blogging, and a lot of different things that can help me grow it. Even Facebook ads, maybe in the next month or so. So I've done these things in the past and I've seen great results. So I'm trying to just do it again and again, over and over again.
Awesome. Karen, how about you?
Yeah, well, Dee, it's interesting that you talked about Pinterest, because Pinterest is on my radar also. Same with you, though. I don't think it's something I really want to learn. And I've talked to people about taking on, but it drives so much traffic to your website, and that's huge. And for me, my biggest goal this year is to go all in on my podcast, because I do have this podcast and it takes a lot of work to get it out every week, but I don't really do a good enough job promoting it on a regular basis. Like, I do it a little bit, but I just need to do a better job. So I'm bringing somebody in that's sole focus is going to be podcast promotion, and that might eventually include Pinterest as well. Because my podcast gives me credibility and builds my email list and does all the other things that I needed to do. I had a call today, like someone that hit my contact page on my website, and I finally got on the call with her, and she just heard my podcast, and I think she's going to be a big client. So that was like another thing, like, why are you not doing this? Like, you're doing all this work on the podcast. So I want to do a better job on marketing the podcast. But I also, for me, speaking is another big piece of my business. So I've got a calendar in front of me, and I've got a commitment to have 2 solid speaking engagements every month. And I'm going to do what I got to do to get them. I mean, I'm going to hustle to get them. I'm going to hustle to get them. And I want them to be the right ones, because in the past I've taken speaking engagements just to take them, and I spin my wheels a little bit. I want to be a little more intentional about them as well. So I'm kind of stepping up the speaking game and stepping up my podcast promotion, which will probably include at some point Pinterest, because I don't really use Pinterest much, and I know how valuable it is.
It's so funny you guys say that, because my web designer has been talking about Pinterest. She's like, you should try Pinterest. And I'm like, no, I don't want to.
They say things like you need to do like 10 or 20 pins a day. I'm like, I don't know, like how do you, where, and when to do that? So anyway, I don't really get it even, or understand it. So I have to, I use it for fun things,
Right.
So.
Oh my gosh. Haley, what about you?
I think there's a lot of things that we do really well. So I want to like double down on those things that are working, really track things, track the numbers a bit more, I think this year for my own business. But in terms of like new things I'm trying, is I'm traveling a lot more for business this year and actually meeting people in person, which I love doing, right? I think that those in-person connections as online business owners, I don't think there's any I don't think there's any substitute for that in-person connection
No,
and
for
that
sure.
in-person meeting and networking.
And I'm glad you're saying that, because I think people try to skip the in-person thing a lot because they're like, online, I could just do it. And I feel like, actually in my programs with my clients, like I'm still getting them out in person, meeting people and doing outreach, and they get results so much quicker. They get more income and easier income flow from those meetings much faster than the online stuff. So I love hearing that you're focusing on that.
Yeah, that piece. And then also, I think we're being more intentional this year, bringing somebody on to do more pitching of podcasts and more pitching of collaborations. I have a great network of people, and I want to do more stuff with them this year. So that's a big focus, is like creating these win-win opportunities.
Awesome. Paige, how about you?
Well, my focus is really to grow my YouTube channel. It's the kind of thing where like the cobbler's kids don't have shoes or whatever. So for so long, I've been like helping other people grow their YouTube and scale their YouTube. And it's like, I've been putting my own channel on the back burner. So that's really my focus this year. Like I have not been consistent in my channel, and it's like the thing I tell everybody to do and help people do. So I'm like putting out a weekly video, and now I'm going to do 2 videos a week, thanks to your suggestion, with video reviews. So I'm like really working on scaling that. And then, just getting more visible in front of other people's audiences. So doing podcast interviews, doing panel talks like this, speaking at different events and things like that. Like you guys talk about the in-person thing. I built my business in person. So like that's a piece that I feel like is missing lately for me, because I've been so online, and like I'm really diving into the online visibility stuff with like LinkedIn too is super fun. But yeah, now I'm like, I want to get back to the in-person stuff as well. So that's like, that's not very, I think that answers your question.
So your goal is to get more in-person stuff. Are you focusing on your list building or anything like that?
I should be. I don't know. My list is fine. I have like some great people on my list. I love them all. I know all their names. I want to do more like in-person stuff. Yeah. And honestly, like the, all of the partnerships and things like, I'm doing some, what do you call them? Summits, doing some digital summits and stuff like that. So that's going to help me grow my list and all of that. That's sort of like a, in the background, just working on that.
Totally.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, let us touch on the mailing list though, and like what you've seen work best for growing your mailing list so far. And what you plan to do for that this year, because I do always stress the importance of a mailing list, because it's your community that you really own. Whereas, Facebook changes, Instagram changes, they all change stuff. But we do have control of our email list, how often we email them. We can see who's opening it up, who's our most engaged people. And I just think it's always really important to have that. It's a really big piece of like security for my business. So for you guys, I know Paige, you kind of just answered it, but for the rest of you, how do you feel about growing your list, and how are you focusing on that? What have you seen work best? Haley, how about you?
I got really lucky. I have a freebie that went really viral, and so it's gotten over 10,000 subscribers all on its own. So I just like, it was trial and error and finding the right thing. So I feel like I hit it lucky with that one, first of all. But I'm really focused on Facebook ads, and especially layering in Pinterest ads, because we do Pinterest. We do Pinterest quite well, I think, because we have so much content to work with. But driving that back to the list more and layering in Pinterest ads with
So we're all going to be calling you tomorrow, Haley, just so you know.
So in terms of your viral opt-in,
Yes.
was it the first opt-in you created, or was it one down the road?
It wasn't the first opt-in I created. It was the first opt-in I created after I shifted my focus to content strategy. I started as a web designer, and I was the worst web designer because I didn't want to write any content around web designery things. And so I should have taken that as a clue that I should be focused on content strategy. And so it was the first one I came up with. It's a monthly content planning kit. I've had it for 4 years. And it just continues to drive subscribers like crazy.
That's awesome. But I think it's so good for you to say this, because I see where people get stuck a lot is they make one opt-in and they try to get it perfect, which, doesn't exist. And then they just stick with that one opt-in and forget to try new ones and add in new things. So I think it's so important for people who are listening, make sure you're experimenting with some different opt-ins and really heavily marketing those opt-ins. You can actually see if people are choosing them, if they're working, that kind of thing. Karen, what about you? I know you've been building your list through speaking.
Yeah, well, that is a big piece of how I build my email list. But email list building really fundamentally is the number one thing I do in my business. I think that is probably the most important thing that I do in my business, because I definitely see a correlation in my email list with the income that comes in. So I also know that when I do some kind of a promotion, it's often the more recent people in my email list that buy it. So if I don't have any recent people, right, who's buying it? So it really is the most important thing that I do in my business. So a couple of things. Yes, speaking, I definitely am always testing new things. What I currently do when I speak now is I have a LinkedIn course, so I give away one seat in the course, and you have to give me your business card, and I say, in return for your business card, you'll get my slides. Everybody wants your slides. I don't know why, but you'll get my slides. One person will get this, but everybody else will get my slides. I have a free video series and an opportunity to get on a call with me. So usually that captures most of the room that way, and I get them all on my email list. I do get a lot of unsubscribes after that, but I'm okay with that. I mean, it's okay if you don't want to be there. I don't know. I think that I'm gonna do a couple. I've got a new webinar in my head, and I think one that I might automate. So that won't be my front running email opt-in, but it'll be something that runs behind the scenes that I can invite people to, and maybe I'll do Facebook ads too. And I really do want to create a new front running one. I've had these 3 videos series for years now, and I think I just want to change it up. I want something new and fresh. If anybody has if you know what you want to learn about LinkedIn that I can help you with in a freebie, reach out to me on LinkedIn or in this group and tell me what you want, because I'm trying to come up with a fun new one that Haley is going to get me 10,000 people that want it.
I know,
so,
right?
I just need to know what that is. Tell me what it is, and I'll create it for you.
My client's on, and she said, I hear you, because she got stuck in perfection mode with her opt-in. And I was like, you just got to get it out there. You can edit it later. You can edit the welcome sequence later. And I think the more you guys the more, for those of you who are on, really hold on to not having opt-in, the more you're leaking your opportunities for potential clients, for that bigger audience, for people who want to hear from you. And, Karen made such a good point in terms of making sure that you are bringing in new people too all the time, because it really is true. I used to think that people had to be on my list for a year or 2 before they bought from me. But last year I would have launch after launch that was so successful from people who were really new to my list from just a couple months buying my mastermind and stuff like that. So, the more that you can keep that going and make sure it's continually bringing in new people every month, the easier it's going to be for you to fill up your programs and stuff like that. Dee, how about you?
Nicole, I think I'm on the same page as Karen. For me, everything is related to list building. So whether I am doing Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest, it has to either convert into paying clients, or either people have to book me or they have to be on my list, or both. Mm-hmm. So a couple of things that I've done really well in the past that has built my list is definitely promoting it on Instagram. I have a great lead magnet, which is amazing for Instagram. So people are really attracted to it. I ran Facebook ads, which were really, really well. We got like leads for 7 cents or something like that. So that was really good last year. I do have to say that it took me the longest time, even though the moment I started my business, I knew that I have to create a lead magnet. It took me about 8 months to create one because I was stuck in that perfection mode. And the moment I gave myself permission to do it, I was able to create it in under 2 hours. So you have to get out of that perfection mode. You have to get something out in front of your people. So that is one thing that I've done in the past. And Pinterest is something that I'm looking forward to getting me more email subscribers. I will be doing Facebook ads. Speaking engagements always help. And I do something like Karen said. Usually I will have like a 30-minute consultation or maybe like a free challenge or something that people want to subscribe to. So a few things, and then panel interviews like these. What else? What else am I thinking of doing? Yes, I do want to come up with a new lead magnet as well, because like when you were talking about, you know, what we do is we create one and then we forget about it. That's me. So I was like, I created one and I was like, this is working too well. So let me just run with it as long as I can. And now I want to create one, but that procrastination and the perfection and everything is like, you know, it's really pushing me badly. So that is something that I'm looking forward to. I have to do it. Like I would want to create a new lead magnet, which will bring in fresh traffic.
I tell my clients to create a new one like every 90 days, whether it is, you know, an evergreen one, like a guide or something like that, or if it's like some sort of live event one, like a challenge.
That's a great idea.
Or a training. And I think just kind of having it at least one new every quarter with whatever you're focusing on, it helps you kind of build that steady library. Cause like in the beginning too, I would make one and then like, that was it. And I will say, at least I did have one when I first got my website up, but then like I stopped there.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's a great idea. Like every 90 days, something, and like it doesn't have to be perfect, right?
And it does, yeah. And the live event ones are good too, because you know then it's not always like a free guide. It gives you another way to kind of build that engagement and interaction, and you know just making sure you're sharing it everywhere. So Paige, like how do you recommend for you like using video like to grow your mailing list? And because people really do grow their list through YouTube.
Oh my gosh, like crazy. Yeah. So a really amazing thing to do is talk about it in your video. Like talk about it, like I said, don't wait till the end. Talk about it like after you've introed and maybe given one tip. Right. So like they're watching, they've already gotten some value from you and they're waiting for the rest of the value. Then you can say, oh, by the way, if this is something you like, click the link below. You can download my checklist for pre-production things that you need to do. So that's a really great way to incorporate your freebie, your opt-in into your YouTube videos. Make sure you put it in the description. And then talk about it like several times throughout the video. You can also link to other videos. Like if you have a video where you're talking about that freebie and just that freebie and like really maybe giving one or two things that are in that freebie in the video. And then it's like, for the rest of this, download the freebie. You can link to that video in all of your other videos. So it's basically just like a sales video to get these people who are already kind of binging you and are already warm to you to like get them into that mailing list. So that's probably one of the best ways that we've seen that converts and gets people from your videos to your mailing list. And that's on YouTube, but then there's like so many other ways. Like if you put a video on your website, make sure you have that call to action at the end. That's like, click here to sign up for our mailing list. And then there's like a couple different tools you can use. I love using Wistia, which is a video hosting platform, and they're really great with customizing your lead magnet at the end, and you can actually like collect emails right in the video. So you can like collect emails either before the video starts or halfway through the video or at the end. So this was like built into to the video viewer that you're watching. So those are just like a couple ideas of ways to grow your list with video. Of course, there's like millions of different creative ways to do it. And the way that we figured this out is just by testing a lot of different things and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work so much.
Yes. And that's what I love, because like we all have different experiences. We're all doing, have similar goals, which is building more visibility, building your list. But from, as you've seen, just listening to everybody tonight, like there are different ways of doing it. So everybody should not get stuck on finding that perfect step-by-step way, right? Like experiment, have some fun, and pull things together that feel good to you, that you are just allowing you to show up consistently and get stuff done. So thank you guys so much for being here tonight. I think we got out so much helpful information to people. For those of you, make sure you're on the list at NicoleLeBlay.com/unstoppable live. I'm going to be sending out some awesome gifts from the host from the 2 nights, so you can learn more about what they're up to. And do you guys have anything else you guys want to add? Any last helpful tips before we wrap up? I feel like you guys just shared it all, but thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys for attending. I hope everyone has an amazing night. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.